could you tell us a little bit about why these proposed legislative reforms are proving to be so controversial with the ruling Democratic Progressive Party and with its supporters and a lot of civic groups?
Well, what the Democratic Progressive Party is concerned about is the contempt of the legislative yuan, creating a new crime. It's targeting government officials from the DPP government. So their concern, which is a legitimate concern, is that DPP government, or government officials appointed by the DPP government will be called into the legislative yuan to testify, and the legislators won't like their answers, and they're going to proceed with seeking charges for contempt of the legislative yuan. Now, on the other hand, though, if we look at this from the other perspective, expecting government officials to be forthright when they're questioned by a parliament, that's fairly standard stuff in democracies around the world.
So one of the complaints that we've heard is that this has been a sort of black box process, very unopen. There's been accusations that the DPP weren't allowed to provide their point of view, and these laws have been directly voted on. Do you, in your experience, have you seen situations like this before in Taiwan?
When there's a majority, they'll try to speed up the legislative processes. So keeping in mind that the Chinese Nationalist Party, or Kuomintang, combined with the Taiwan People's Party, have a majority in the legislative yuan, they could do whatever they want. I mean, that's just the nature of democratic politics. The DPP, they enjoyed a majority for 8 years. They weren't always concerned with the feelings of the minority, and that's just the way it is, right? The voters have spoken. For two previous elections, the voters were very clear. They gave the Democratic Progressive Party a very healthy majority, and they were able to pass whatever legislation they wanted to. Now, as we say in English, the shoe's on the other foot. And the Democratic Progressive Party now has a minority in the legislative yuan, and their powers are limited. It's the same thing in other democracies as well. In the United States House of Representatives, the Republicans have a small majority. The Democrats can't stop the Republicans in the House from passing legislation or holding hearings and other work of the House. In the U.S. Senate, the Democrats have a small majority, and again, the Republicans, they can't stop the Senate majority Democrats from doing what the Senate majority Democrats want to do. This is just the nature of democratic politics.
From what you've seen, is there anything about these laws that is concerning in terms of the way that they've been worded?
Another aspect of this package is to expand the investigatory powers of the legislative yuan. And again, though, that's not unusual in democracies, that members of parliament, or in the case of the United States Congress, that they have the ability to conduct hearings into various issues, various public policy issues. Often they say they need to do it as part of writing potential legislation on that issue. Sometimes they're just trying to get to the bottom of wrongdoing. That could be in the government, or it could be in the private sector. The United States Congress, for example, they have subpoena power. They could demand that people produce documents and demand that people testify. And if they refuse to cooperate with a valid subpoena from the United States Congress, the Congress could refer them to the Department of Justice for potential prosecution. So again, the powers that the legislative yuan majority is seeking to give itself, they are not by themselves unusual. There's always the possibility of abuse, and certainly there's the possibility of abuse when the powers are newly given to the legislators, right? It's going to take them a while to learn how to use the powers, if it does pass into law, and how to use those powers appropriately. So it's a legitimate concern to ask, are the legislators ready? Are they mature enough